We got a man running the country who can't even run a social media app. Today was not a good day if you were on Twitter. And I was getting real perturbed because today was the first day of tampering in the NFL. I couldn't follow most of it because of that man in the White House.
I'm telling y'all, man, Blue Sky is where it's at. Blue Sky went off without a hitch. I mean, Mina Kimes was complaining about how Seattle signed Sam Darnold. You know, it was great. You know, you got to join us over on the Blue Sky.
I am pleased to announce that we have cut off all payments to the X app. So there were some there were some I don't want to call them perks, but there were some functional things that we previously have been utilizing that in order to do it, you had to pay. But I had to say, you know what, we just have to make it do what it do. So I terminated the paid account.
It's the principalities. It's the principles it is.
So Ken is part of Doge.
What a joke.
Yeah, but thanks for joining us though tonight, folks. We were off all last week. Chris Stevens was covering high school basketball in Delaware. Jared Hoffman was on assignment at the MCI Center in Washington, D.C. Cameron Shy was cutting people off, and I was being the family man. But anyway, we're here to talk one thing and one thing only tonight, and that is the big news of the weekend, which was Eddie George, the former coach of Tennessee State, is now the new coach at Bowling Green State University. News broke over the weekend. Actually, late Saturday night, I saw a tweet from Pete Thamel, who covers college football for ESPN. He mentioned that Eddie George was one of the 3 finalists for the job at Bowling Green. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then like maybe 16 seconds later, he said, oh, they've offered Eddie George a job. He's thinking about it. And then Sunday morning, Eddie George became coach at Bowling Green. So, gentlemen, first blush, what are we thinking? How surprised are we? How surprised are not we that this happened? Starting with Chris Stevens.
I mean, this is a business where you have to look out for yourself. I mean, sports has always, in the recent years, has been really cutthroat and, you know, dog eat dog. So I'm not going to, you know, dog Eddie George because, I mean, he was very transparent with us when we had him on here. Don't forget, folks, we had Eddie George on here before anybody else. So you should go back and check out that interview when you got the time. But he was very transparent with us about everything regarding Tennessee State, regarding his interview with the Chicago Bears, excuse me. So it didn't surprise me very much, but it's still disappointing because it seemed like he really got it. Like he understood the nuances of why Tennessee State is struggling, why HBCUs struggle from an athletic standpoint against PWI. So it's disappointing, but I mean, the man just won the Big South OVC. He took this team to the playoffs. He was going to be a hot commodity regardless. You know, imagine if he had actually won a playoff game. You know, he probably would have got the Kennesaw State job before anybody else did. So it's just this point that Bowling Green got rid of the guy they didn't want and got the guy they did want, and that guy just happened to be Eddie George. So, I mean, we'll talk more about, you know, double standards and different things later on in the broadcast, but it's not surprising, but it's just disheartening because Tennessee State is just going through so much, and it's like, how much more can this university take?
Yeah, they were definitely going in the right direction, at least football-wise, with Eddie George and Tennessee State. They had made the playoffs, had a good showing in the playoffs, too, against one of the better teams in the country. And now they're without a head coach right before spring practice starts, which is just terrible timing for them. But Jared Hoffman, your thoughts on Eddie George moving on to Bowling Green and kind of like what that means for, I guess, Tennessee State moving forward?
Well, first of all, in terms of Bowling Green moving on from the coach they don't want, he's now the quarterback's coach for the Super Bowl champions. So, hey, move on from me if you want. But it's not surprising. Once he had that interview that probably wasn't really even an interview with I think it was the Chicago Bears. He did.
You said it was real, though. He said it was real.
Yeah. Once he got that interview, I was like, oh, it's only a matter of time before another team comes calling, trying to get his services. So it's not really surprising. it would have been a surprise had he not done the interview with the Bears. It would have been surprising from that standpoint. But after the interview with the Bears, no, it wasn't surprising. What it means for Tennessee State, it means that they're behind the 8 ball, and they're probably going to lose that George brought into that room, and they're going to have to start from ground zero. And we're going to get into who should be next in line to be Tennessee State's coach later, but whoever that may be, they're going to have a lot of work to do in high school recruits that were supposed to come in, a lot of guys who have already been there, who, like I said, came there from the word of Eddie George, and student body and the S word stakeholders that are now going to be looking at the AD and saying, all right, what's the next move? So there's going to be a lot of scrambling within Tennessee State's headquarters, but hey, it's part of the business.
Yeah, Cameron Side, as someone who knows Mickey Allen personally, who considers him a best friend of his, did this kind of catch you like off guard that like this was even a possibility for Eddie George, or like how you taking it all in?
Well, for the record, Mickey Allen isn't. We aren't best friends, but he is my frat brother. All right.
Of course.
So it's only natural that he would hire or have the instinct to hire someone who would eventually go on to leave the school to coach someplace else, considering that the person he hired had absolutely no interest in coaching at all when he first took the job. And that's what I find so amazing about this story. Eddie George is widely, obviously, Heisman Trophy winner, had a successful NFL football career, and managed to create quite a comfortable lifestyle as an investor and businessman, post NFL. And, living in the Nashville area, periodically supporting Tennessee State through his, through donations and so forth. But the man, according to him, had absolutely no desire to coach. And then he gets the call from Tennessee State to come coach. And he talked to his wife, who said, why not? And so he does. And so while we see him doing this, and of course, this is kind of on the after post Deion Sanders being hired at Jackson State, and everybody was wondering about what was this hire going to be like, only to find out that, Eddie George made his own way. And so when you put in consideration that he came to Tennessee State and at a rough patch, managed to stick with it. Yeah, wasn't crazy about some things that he saw. And yeah, there were times that we kind of gave him the proverbial side eye on some things that he witnessed and so forth, deservingly. But the thing is that he was committed and dedicated to the program. And so when you put in consideration the progress the program made, and then all of a sudden, now he's a playoff team. And then all of a sudden, here's a call. Hey, Chicago Bears, let's talk to you about this coaching job. And now all of a sudden he gets a head coaching job at Bowling Green. I mean, this isn't anything surprising. This is kind of like what you would expect. I guess for me, there's a part of me that just thinks or wishes, I wish there were other HBCU coaches who could take this particular path and move on to coach at PWIs, something that we still hadn't seen outside of Deion Sanders and Eddie George, who are in and out, I don't want to call them celebrity hires, but look, they've got a name. Yet we know that we can probably list a number of coaching legends who coached at HBCUs who probably could have done phenomenally well at a PWI or a school with more resources had they been given the opportunity to do so. So congratulations to him. This is one of those opportunities, one of these coaching situations or stories to where one can honestly say he earned it. And, I really hope he does well at Bowling Green.
Yeah, some might say like you left off Willie Simmons, who had to go a different route to get there, but
well, yeah, okay, but Willie Simmons wasn't hired directly out of FAMU as a head coach. That's what I'm referring to.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He had a different route to get there, though. Yeah.
Right. You know, I mean,
he had long been considered a guy who could be an FBS coach, though.
Well, if that's the case, we can say the same thing with Jerry Mack. You know, he was the head coach of North Carolina Central, took him to the Celebration Bowl, and he left and went to Rice as an assistant, and then to Tennessee. And now look at, you know, now he's the head coach at Kennesaw State. So I'm just saying, man, you know, good for them. But hopefully we can see more NFL. Hopefully we can see more HBCU coaches hired as head coaches at other institutions, as opposed to having to take a detour to take on a position as an assistant someplace before they can actually be considered for a head coaching position at a PWI.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you either have to be ex-NFL person or you have to go to a PWI first as an assistant and then get one of those jobs. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want that to happen for our homegrown guys. There's so many of our homegrown guys that I know for sure could have success as an FBS head coach. I know Trey Oliver can go to an FBS team and do big numbers. I know that TC Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely.
TC Taylor has shown that he can be an FBS head coach one day and does not need to be an assistant to prove his worth. He can absolutely go straight to a Power 5 and do work. Chennis Berry is going to have to show that he can do it in the postseason in order for him to get that stigma of being able to be an FBS coach. But I know for sure that once he is able to knock that stigma off of him of not being having postseason success, I know that Chennis Berry can eventually be that coach. He's definitely that type of recruiter. He's definitely that type of motivator. But in terms of having success at that level, he hasn't shown that he can do that because he hasn't won any of his postseason games yet. But I know he's that caliber of a coach. And there's plenty of other guys. Dr. Alvin Parker is somebody that I feel like can be that. Maurice Flowers is somebody that I feel like can be that. We have homegrown coaches that could be FBS caliber. It's just that they don't have the name cachet, and that sells at the Power 5 level. You have to have that name cachet in order to get those recruits in the building.
I think what's interesting, and I'm going to cross-reference sports here, is to keep it HBCU, but it's still a front porch sport. We can look at Lavelle Moulton in North Carolina Central. And I mean, Coach Moulton, I mean, this is a dude. I mean, we're talking about name cachet. I mean, he's friends with New Edition, for crying out loud. I mean, it's not like he's an unknown commodity. I mean, he's won several MEAC championships, taking that team to the NCAA tournament. You're telling me not one PWI in North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, or anywhere else in this country couldn't have used Lavelle Moulton at some point in their program's history. So it's like HBCUs unfortunately still have like this, you know, this lesser than stigma about them, even though we continually turn out great people, great athletes, great administrators, great politicians. Our schools are still fighting for respect 130 something years after they were founded. So I mean, it's disappointing that it takes an NFL name for a guy to jump from HBCU to PWI, but considering the way HBCUs have been treated over the years, it's not really surprising either.
I think when we say PWI, we should preface that we mean FBS. Yes. Because PWI it encompasses the university. It doesn't encompass the level. So I
stand corrected.
We should also explain New Edition for our younger audience.
Oh, come on. They know what New Edition is. They saw the New Edition story.
If they didn't, they better go back and watch it. I mean, because, who don't know Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, Mike, and Ralph? Oh, and Johnny, too.
How many Ralphs we making these days, man?
Not that many.
Not that many Ralphs out here today.
Ain't that many Johnnies either. I mean, these kids, I just covered the high school state championships in Delaware. I mean, I see there was a handful of Jadens, a couple of Jaylens, a Javion, you know, the girls' names now. There's a Skylar now. I mean, when's the last time you heard of a young, black boy named Chris, for crying out loud, or Ken, or Jared or a young black girl named like Yvonne, or my mom's name Paula, or even Jared's mom, Miss Kathy. I mean, it's like we gotta bring strong African American names back. We got to bring them back. So that's my one hot take for today.
Since we talking about our 90s R&B groups, R.I.P. Dwayne Wiggins. Just got to say that real quick.
That hurt my heart. He sung my favorite Tony song, Whatever You Want. So yeah,
they've been losing a lot of legends lately, man. It's been a sad time for music fans.
Yes.
Yeah, some of you may be wondering, like, why did Eddie George go from a great city like Nashville to Bowling Green, Ohio? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't have made that move. So he explained himself. This is courtesy of the Tennessean. He said Bowling Green really came out of left field. I wasn't searching for a job. I wasn't looking for interviews. I did take were interviews I was asked to take. I wanted to explore because it was a time in my career when I had to look at other options and see what was available. He also said, which is not included here, that like he said he asked for a sign from God to find out what to do, and then lo and behold, Bowling Green comes to calling, and nice new head coach there. So what do we make of him saying he wasn't looking for an opportunity? It just happened to happen for him, and next thing you know, he's a coach of the new school, starting with Ken Rashad.
I believe him. I mean, again, look at the backstory. There was absolutely no reason to believe that. I disagree. There's absolutely no reason to think or believe that he just actually wanted to leave Nashville, given what he had been doing in Nashville prior to the point that he took the job at Tennessee State. The man had zero interest in coaching. None. And prior to his time as a head coach at Tennessee State, if I'm not mistaken, what had he been a coach? No. And so I think it's safe to say that while he started coaching, that bug hit him. And, well, hell, I can't put on the pads and say, hey, put me in, coach. But I can say, son, go get in there. And so he got the bug, man. And so now, he's a coach that literally is in demand. So I believe him. I don't think it's BS. I think it's legitimate. And look, he's making the most of the opportunity.
Chris Stevens, you think it's all a bunch of bull jive, or Eddie George kind of gets opportunity because like he just wanted it? I don't know.
Bull jive, boy, that's a Cabrini Green good times pull right there.
I'm from Chicago, so I know what Cabrini Green is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's BS. I mean, I've talked about my feelings about religion before on this show. So I mean, every time I feel like every time somebody says God gives them a sign, it's like, okay, fine, whatever God means to you, cool. But at the same time, I'm not gonna sit here and castigate a guy who, as Ken said, was good chilling in Nashville, raising funds, attending his superstar wife's concert tours and all of that good stuff. And then he gets the call from Mickey Allen. It's like, man, I don't even want to do this, but I'll do this. And then, I mean, it's like with anything in life, when you try something new for the first time and it works out, you get excited about it. Like, for example, I didn't cook until I moved, until I got a new home and a kitchen. And now, you can't keep me out. I mean, I bake biscuits, I bake cakes, I fry pork chops, cooking is a part of my life now.
What?
So
how did you eat before?
Oh, I mean, it was just like, a whole bunch of, like the Hungry Man dinners and all that stuff. But
no.
Yeah, so sports writer, single bachelor, that type of stuff. But yeah, cooking is fun for me now. The point is that like cooking has become a passion for me. Coaching has become a passion for Eddie George. And yes, it may seem disingenuous to some people that God told him to do it, because we already know how Deion Sanders uses God when he really means his ego. But if Eddie George says the Almighty said, look for something, see if there's something else available, then that's what happened. And Bowling Green just happened to become available. I mean, it's not like I mean, it's not like, he went down the street to Vanderbilt or something, or he's going to another Big South OVC school. I mean, he's moving up to FBS. So he did what was best for him. I mean, it's going to hurt Tennessee State, and it's going to probably, maybe it'll wean people off of these name brand coaches. That's, something that we may have to consider at some point. But I don't think that I don't think there's any reason to doubt Eddie George at his word. It's just unfortunate timing for Tennessee State.
Are you calling bull jive on the Jared Hoffman, or you believe him? Say bull jive, Jared, for the show. Say bull jive.
I'm not gonna call bull jive on Eddie George. Look, I know that there's a stigma about people who use God and religion to, kind of explain the reason for the decisions that they make. But I'm one who's inclined to, if you don't give me a reason to believe you're lying, I'm not going to just put that on you. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people put that on Dion because he talks like a salesman, and he talks like it sounds like he's selling everything that he's saying. So you are inclined to believe that he's lying. But like, I don't like to put that on people because it's not fair to them, especially when I don't know you personally. So I didn't call Dion a liar when he said God told him to do the things that he did. And I don't want to call Eddie George a liar because it's basically saying I don't respect you as a man. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it, me personally. I'm not faulting anybody who looks at it in a different way, but that's just me. That for me, unless you give me a reason to believe that you're lying or you have a history of lying, I'm not going to put that stigma on you without any evidence. So I think that Eddie George is genuine. He doesn't give me that kind of vibe. He's not even that kind of guy that really is like a me kind of guy. Like his years at Tennessee State, other than when he was on First Take, you didn't see him much. Other than obviously the coaching press conferences, but that's mandatory. So you didn't really see him much throughout his time at Tennessee State. So he wasn't a guy that was like, put me on camera or like, I want to be the center of attention or nothing like that. So I have no reason to believe he's putting on a show or anything like that and trying to make himself look better than what he is. No, he's just being genuine. Like even when we interviewed him, he was just down to earth. Like there was nothing for me to believe that he was trying to put on an act, put on a front, nothing like that. So no, I'm not going to put that stigma on him. And I don't think that anybody should without knowing that person genuinely in real life.
Okay, so Jared Hoffman don't agree. Okay. All right. So Eddie George did say he asked God for a sign, and God said, hey, let's talk to I got somebody for you. Urban Meyer's the sign. Apparently
that might be a sign from the devil.
We're not gonna go there, Chris. We're not gonna go there. Urban Meyer is big in Ohio. He's a coach at Youngstown State. He was a coach at Bowling Green. Obviously, everybody knows coach at Ohio State. And apparently, Urban Meyer went to the board of trustees at Bowling Green and said, I got one name for you. It's Eddie George. Talk to him, hire him. And so I'm thinking, okay, how's this possible? So I did some sleuthing, and I talked to Michael Burrell of the Toledo Blade, who covers Bowling Green for the newspaper, and he explained this connection between Urban Meyer and Eddie George and how it all kind of came together. So here's Michael Burrell today talking about how Urban Meyer influenced the school to hire Eddie George.
Eddie George during the press conference today mentioned, he was driving home from the NFL Combine, and Urban Meyer, former coach at Bowling Green, obviously well known in college football, he reached out and texted Eddie George, if he has any interest in the Bowling Green head coaching position. So, the name came up, and obviously, with his background overall, especially in Ohio, playing for Ohio State and everything. I mean, that was a very, very popular name. So, they had interviews with Eddie George. The alignment with athletic director at Bowling Green, Derek Vandermeer, and Eddie George's values really lined up, and yeah, it just kind of went from there.
So, what do we make of Urban and Meyer influencing the school to hire his main man, Eddie George? Hoffman, your thoughts?
Hey, we always say it's not about what you know, it's who you know. So, I mean, it happens all the time. Like, what else do we expect? Like, forget the fact that he was already an NFL player who's the Tennessee Titans all-time leading rusher. Forget about the fact that he just had his most successful season as a head coach with Tennessee State. Now you got somebody, a national championship winning head coach, vouching for you. Of course, that it makes perfect sense. Like, why would it be a surprise that Urban Meyer would vouch for him and Bowling Green would jump right on that? Like, that's like getting a amen from Red Auerbach. Like, of course I'm gonna take his word for it. Do you know what his resume is? Of course. Or to put it into modern context, imagine getting a cosign from Bill Belichick. Of course, I'm going to take that into consideration. Like, whether you like Urban Meyer or you don't, what you can't say is that he's not a successful head coach. You can't say that he doesn't have a great track record as a coach. So if he gives you the word and says that that's somebody that you should consider, of course I'm going to take that seriously. Like, I mean, people who don't deserve certain jobs benefit from cosigns all the time. So when it's one of us who get it, I'm not going to complain about it. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They have a connection in different ways than one. So, hey, kudos to Eddie George for jumping on the opportunity, even though he probably didn't want to or didn't care to. But, hey, it worked out well for him, and hopefully he does well with it.
So, Cameron Stroud, as someone who's been in the business of suggesting who should be coaches, what do you make of Urban Meyer flexing his muscle to pull Eddie George away from the poor black school to the PWI?
Well, first of all, this damn camera lens, I'm about to throw it across the freaking room because I can't get it to act right. But anyway, all I will simply say is this. Regardless, whether this turns out good or bad for Bowling Green, we don't know what the result of this hire is going to ultimately yield. I wonder if Urban Meyer said, "Where's my cut?" Because there's no way in hell Bowling Green gets Eddie George as the head coach as if it's not for him. Period. I mean, all due respect to Bowling Green, but I don't think any coach said, "Boy, I would sure love the opportunity to coach at Bowling Green one day." I'm just saying.
It's got to be somebody's dream job. Or probably was.
Maybe a Bowling Green alum, a diehard.
I mean, considering their last head coach just got hired by the Super Bowl champions, I'm seeing that. I'm like, maybe I can make that same
right. Okay, so a good point. But I'm saying, man, thank God for Urban Meyer from Bowling Green's perspective.
And apparently also a former Ohio State coach, Jim Tressel, also recommended Eddie George too. Those Ohio State guys, man, they're sticking together.
Yeah.
Oh, well. So you know what? I just thought about? So I couldn't help the coach at Ohio State right now. What's his name?
Ryan Day.
Huh? Ryan Day. Now, if you recall, about maybe a third, towards the end of the season, he was on a hot seat. And it was like, look, you either make a run or chances are Ryan Day was out. And I have to wonder. Now,
he probably still could get fired for losing to Michigan.
He still got fired what?
despite them winning the championship, we probably still on the hot seat
No,
right now.
I think it would look. It was national championship or bust. Period. But there's a part of me that just thinks that if they had already lost to Michigan again, and if lose any one of those games, he's out. And I just wonder, do they dare consider Ohio State? I mean, do you think they considered Eddie George as a head coach?
No.
No,
They would consider Marcus Freeman for Eddie George.
I hear you. Okay, just curious.
They might have considered one of the Bosas, to be honest with you, because I mean, Joey's looking for a job right now.
Think about that.
Also interesting about why Eddie George decided to leave Tennessee State could be because of Tennessee State. The Tennessean reported yesterday that he had some concerns about the financial situation regarding university, and we've talked some about that over the last year or so, how they had been in financial straits at university. And here's some of the things that happened over the last year that kind of maybe contributed to Eddie George thinking twice about staying in Tennessee State, despite the fact he was in the last year of his contract. So Tennessee State asked, this is most recently in January, I think, Tennessee State asked the State Building Commission to let it shift $154 million to daily campus operations. State officials later on authorized $43 million to Tennessee State last November for the school to make payroll. Enrollment dropped by 25% in the fall of 2024. There was also a bunch of layoffs and other cost-cutting measures. The current interim president laid out his 5-year sustainability plan that called for reducing scholarships, trimming employee expenses by up to $17 million. And we all know every black college is underfunded to some degree. And Tennessee State, according to the Biden administration, was underfunded by $2 billion. And Glenda Glover kind of commented about that was kind of the reason why they were so behind in terms of funding the university. But others would say, well, y'all did really poor bookkeeping as well. So what do we make of this? Did all this here kind of, you think, could have legitimized Eddie George leaving Tennessee State? Starting with Chris Stevens.
Chris, before you start, let me just say this real quick. Okay, we interrupt this programming for this special announcement. Guys, while you're watching, do us a favor and hit the super button and support the channel. That's all I ask. Support the channel if you enjoy the content and you want us to continue to create more live content. So I'll just leave it at that. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so yes, I feel like that's the reason, because as we've discussed ad nauseum before, Eddie George didn't want to coach. Eddie George didn't want to leave Nashville. But the bottom line is you got to strike while the iron is hot. And right now, Tennessee State doesn't even have an iron in the fire, to quote the late, great Tina Marie. So it's unfortunate, but this is what these folks in power want now. They want black institutions and black life to just absolutely crumble. I mean, there's no real reason for any institution to be underfunded to the tune of $2 billion other than just pure sheer hatred and racism. So it's not surprising that Tennessee State is struggling, because the state of Tennessee legislature wants them to struggle. And when you have something as affirming as a university football coach who believes in the program and the program is on the right track, as I talked about in my column at the end of Black History Month, HBCUs, sports were a way for our students and our alumni and local townspeople to become a community with each other. I mean, you go to a football game, you go to a basketball game, you have a great time. You start finding like-minded people, and you start putting things together that would make the institution and yourselves more powerful. So how do you stop people from doing that? You cut off the money. And that's what the state of Tennessee has done to Tennessee State. So it's unfortunate, but it's not surprising, because it's probably going to happen. I mean, we already saw what happened in Mississippi, for crying out loud. So, I mean, with Brett Favre in the welfare scandal, I mean, Alabama HBCUs are underfunded. Same in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. I've told you guys the story before, but if you're new to this channel, I'll tell you a story really quick. I was working for a newspaper in Dover, Delaware in 2011. I asked the government reporter, what was the yearly budget for the University of Delaware? He said $113 million. I said, okay, what's the yearly budget for Delaware State? $32 million. That says it all right there. HBCUs are underfunded no matter where you put them. So it's just part of the nastiness, and the cruelty is the point with these people. So Tennessee State is just getting the real business end of that cruelty at the worst possible time in the university's history. And that's why it cost them Eddie George for the most part.
I was watching a YouTube video over the weekend about the University of Michigan's baseball team. They have a $26 million baseball facility. Now, when was the last time Michigan was good in baseball? Anybody?
I don't
I
know.
don't know if they were ever.
I didn't know Michigan even had a baseball team.
Thank you.
They spending their money like they're the Dodgers for baseball. And Chris is right. Yeah, like their schools get all the money, and our schools get underfunded to the tune of billions of dollars simply because of racism. And even Eddie George said that in an interview he did with Shannon Sharp about a year and a half ago. He talked about like how it was unfair that Tennessee, the state itself, was not allocating the money it should allocate it to Tennessee State. He talked about the condition of the buildings on campus, especially the dormitories and all that stuff, how they look like they're from the 50s and 60s and stuff like that. That goes a long way. And not only like coaches want to coach there, but like students want to be there too. Because like if your campus isn't up to standard modern wise, like it's not going to be very attractive. So money matters. And so like we all hope Tennessee State is be able to recover from this and be able to forge on. But like, yeah, like we got to also acknowledge like the state has really been active in like suppressing their ability to financially as well.
I don't know if you guys already showed this, but I'm just seeing this now. But this is a real possibility.
Yeah,
this is a
It could actually
real
happen,
possibility.
Mhm.
This really is a possibility. The Bahamas Bowl.
Florida A&M versus Tennessee State.
Say what?
That's the closest we're gonna get to Florida A&M versus Tennessee State.
Yeah, but
Apparently.
it is more than it. Bowling Green and it was the FIU or FAU.
FIU.
FIU.
It's FIU.
One of them damn one of them FUs. That is a real possibility. That is a real possibility, given the teams that we've seen in the Bahamas Bowl in the past.
Yep.
You watched the Bahamas Bowl, Ken?
No, I just know that they've been in there. Come on now. I'm not that desperate for even though I'm probably sure there probably are some. That's an ESPN owned event. So I'm just saying.
Every bowl game is, I think, right?
Maybe.
Not owned by ESPN.
Not all of them. I mean, I think the Rose Bowl is still run by the Rose Bowl committee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Oh, congrats, Ken, on UCLA women's team winning the Big Ten tournament yesterday.
Okay.
Wait a minute, man. You have to care. That's your school.
Okay.
I feel bad for Gigi Watkins, man. She played her heart out. I'm sure.
She'll make it to the tournament.
It'll be all right. She got millions of dollars already. She'd be cool. So speaking of people with millions of dollars, who's going to be the next Tennessee State coach? Chris Stevens had two names. Urban Meyer had one name for Bowling Green. Chris Stevens got two names for Tennessee State. And his two names were Fred McNair and Bobby Rome. Why, Chris?
Well, first of all, Jared suggested Bobby Rome, so I just added his name to the list. But I mean, I think Coach Rome deserves it. I mean, well, for Coach McNair, if you're looking for an established coach who has HBCU experience, there's your answer. I mean, Fred McNair won almost 50 games in 7 years at Alcorn, 2 SWAC championships, 2 Celebration Bowl appearances, and by all accounts, he's a coach that molds young men into being great men, period. So you want a guy who's going to help you win on the field and off the field. And Fred McNair definitely checks both of those boxes. And I get, he said he was happy as Southern's tight ends coach. We did a story about that, but I think that he would love to be a head coach again. And Tennessee State, what better way? I mean, they're looking for a way to stay on top and in the Big South OVC and still maintain those HBCU ties. And why not go get Fred McNair? As far as Bobby Rome II goes, you know, this is a dude who literally took a program who hadn't had a football team in 60 something years and took them to back-to-back winning seasons, which unfortunately, because of administrative shenanigans, was not enough to keep his job. So, you know, if Tennessee State's looking, if Mickey Allen is looking to sort of think outside the box a little bit, but still once again maintain that HBCU relevancy, you can bring in Bobby Rome, because what do you have to lose at this point? I mean, the man has proved he can coach. I mean, he won at he's won at the NAIA level. He was doing well at Central State, but then Central State, you know, just kind of shoved him out the door for some reason. But, you know, he's a guy that he's young, he's energetic, and I think he could do wonders with that Tennessee State program if they chose that route. So that's my reason for those two choices, really.
Jared Hoffman, you said Bobby Rome. Anybody else you got floating around in your brain about who could take this job?
Well, it's really more about like dream picks, honestly, because realistically, they're probably going to hire within their staff. So I'm almost certain that's probably what they're going to do. But if they were to be open-minded to other candidates outside of their circle, I love Bobby Rome as an option. I love Dr. Alvin Parker as an option. I love Maurice Flowers as an option. I love Jarrell Jackson. For those who don't know, that's Texas College's head coach, who he just led to a 7-3 season. And if you know about Texas College, that's the equivalent of winning the Super Bowl. Those are some of my options. And just as a homer, call me what you want. I don't care. I would love for Anton Sewell to get an opportunity to be a head coach. And that would be the perfect opportunity. Sue me. I don't care. I want Anton Sewell to be a head coach. He's the best DC in college football. Argue with your mama, not me. But
oh wow.
Yeah, so those are just a couple of guys that I think. And Diego Rowland. I would love for Diego Rowland. That's Virginia Union's offensive coordinator. I think that it may not be Tennessee State for him, but I would love for Diego Rowland to get a head coaching job. I know that's not what we're talking about. But in terms of Tennessee State, my dream hire would be Bobby Rome or Dr. Alvin Parker. But realistically, it's probably just going to be somebody already in their staff.
Yeah, I think the likely candidate from an internal standpoint will probably be Brandon Fisher, the DC. Yeah. He's the son of Jeff Fisher. And him and Eddie George are tight.
Mr. 8.
You may never know. I mean, considering like it's almost spring practice,
right?
Not enough time to like try to find a big name. But I mean, like there are guys out there, you know, who has superstar names like this one.
Y'all play too much. I swear y'all do.
I mean, Aaron Reed looking for a job, man.
No, don't joke. All jokes aside, though, I just watched back Ed Reed's highlights in the NFL. He has one of the craziest highlight tapes of any NFL player. Him and Troy Polamalu got some of the most insane highlight tapes on the defensive end. But y'all are funny.
Chris Stevens is just so upset with me right now.
Like,
I mean, but like
I'm upset with you right now.
You are? Why?
I thought we banned that man's name from this show, dog.
Come on, man.
Banning somebody's name from a show.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get a bunch of people spamming his name in our comments now.
Jeez Louise.
But I do think there's something to be said about whether or not it'll be the right move to get a quote-unquote celebrity hire again. I mean, like, it couldn't have been a better fit for Tennessee State. Eddie George, played football for the Titans. He lived in Nashville. He's a big name. He leveraged a lot of his opportunities to help out Tennessee State. Like, I think they have to have a coach with like similar reach at that school. Otherwise, they're going to be irrelevant again.
All I know is we had this conversation previously, and when I made my suggestion, y'all laughed at me.
I didn't laugh at you.
Chris Stevens did.
What did? Who did you say again?
My friend Dawson Odoms.
Proof that he laughed at him.
Yeah, I like Coach Odoms. Believe me, I've done the MEAC conferences each of the last 2 seasons for HBCU Sports. Coach Odoms is a wonderful guy, but I don't know. I mean, this is a dude. This is a dude who left Southern when he probably should have stayed at Southern. I don't know what the draw at Norfolk State was, but I think that kind of made his. Unfortunately, I think that kind of killed his prospects a little bit.
Well, he's from the area. That was one, and money was money was two. Yeah, but to be honest with you, and you guys have just said it, I Fisher will probably be maybe interim coach, but I don't see whether it be on an interim basis or somebody next year. I don't think there's going to be an HBCU coach at Tennessee State. I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Well, it's too late.
Somebody said, M4 1974 said no HBCU ties on Eddie George's staff. And
Eddie George ain't had no HBCU ties.
Well, but you know what? And the AD doesn't have HBCU ties. The AD played football at Tennessee. So all you have to do is just kind of look at how the program has kind of, how it's progressed. We'll play HBCUs because we are HBCUs, because we know that we've got alums who want us to continue to play in HBCUs. But I had that conversation with Mickey Allen, and Dr. Allen is interim coach currently. Is that true?
Yes, he is. He is actually. Yes,
okay.
He is.
And so, but I point blank asked him when I had an interview when he first became AD, and he pretty much, wasn't necessarily straight shooter, but pretty much the indication was, we ain't joining the SWAC, we're not joining the MEAC. We're gonna continue to operate the way we are. We're gonna continue to focus on winning the playoffs as opposed to going to the Celebration Bowl, and that's exactly how they've operated. Not to mention adding the hockey program since that time. Mm-hmm. So there's no, and I mean, look, the conversation that we're having in terms of who could possibly be Tennessee State's next head coach, but if we're going to be just flat out honest and serious, there is nothing to suggest or nothing that indicates that the next coach at Tennessee State is going to be an HBCU alum.
I think you're right, but I do think there's one name out there we should consider. Your boy, Ken Rashad, Hugh Jackson. He does have ties to the university. He was Eddie George's first offensive coordinator when he took over.
Well, again, he's not an HBCU alum now, is he?
No, but he's had experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was there. And like I said, look, I don't know, but I think it's safe to say that whoever Tennessee State hires is not going to be an HBCU alum.
Yeah, that's why I said it was a dream coach.
And I'm gonna just say this, and it might be somewhat telling if they don't.
I mean, Ken, every move they made in the athletic department the last 5 years has been telling that they won't.
I know that. That's my point. So
look at that women's basketball coach, Candace Dupree.
Yeah,
former WNBA player. They go to a black college.
I'm just look. All you gotta do is just look at how the school navigates.
Hockey, Rashad.
Huh?
They got a hockey team. We don't play. We're not from Canada. We don't do that down in the South.
Which is why I said the coaches that I suggested are not realistic.
Well, yeah, that famous line from the preacher's wife: "They don't play tennis, Joe."
One of the greatest Christmas movies ever.
Well, they play tennis now, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, but you're right, Ken. I don't think anybody with a black college background is going to be their head coach anytime soon.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Yeah, so this last topic been spawned by Chris Stevens again. So it kind of like just a general conversation on social media after it was announced that Eddie George was moving on to Bowling Green. A lot of people suggested, or let me put it another way, demanded that the same vitriol be pushed in the direction of Eddie George than it was in the direction of Deion Sanders when he left Jackson State for Colorado. Was it 3 years ago now that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Chris Stevens, tell them why it's not the same thing.
People gonna be mad at me. People gonna be mad at me, but they gonna
You
deal.
don't care about nobody being mad at you, man. Be you.
I sure don't. So anybody that got a problem with me, I mean, you know my ad on social media. I ain't never ran from what Lil Wayne say. I ain't run today, and I ain't damn sure picked a day to start running. So whatever. But again, there's a disingenuousness to everything that Deion Sanders does. You know, this was a dude who said that for the most part, he was going to save black college football. Those are his words. Those aren't mine. And this is a dude who also took the time to belittle everything HBCU related. Like one of the first games at Jackson State, he accused somebody of going into his locker, into his office and stealing his stuff. Turned out that wasn't the case. So the only thing that even remotely similar is Eddie George's wings and beer comment. That's about it. But everything else about Eddie George told me that this dude wanted to understand black college life. This wasn't intended to be a pass through for him, and it's not even really a pass through because he coached 3 or 4 years there.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean he coached long enough to say that in the program improved under his watch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not fair to say that Eddie George and Deion deserve the same energy because I get where Jared's coming from, like, you know, not wanting to, you know, call somebody anything that you don't feel they are. But there's just something about Deion that has rubbed me the wrong way for years. And this is my opinion. Anybody else who feels differently about Deion, you are more than entitled to do so. But there's just something about that dude that just says snake oil salesman every step of the way. The dude even. He either turns everything into a slight or everything into a celebration. There's no in between. There's no gray area with Deion Sanders. It's either black or white. So, but with Eddie George, it seems like he was willing to explore the gray areas of why Tennessee State was struggling, why black college sports were struggling, why it was important to keep HBCUs on schedule. I mean, that was something I asked him when we interviewed him, and I thought he gave me a really thoughtful answer, something that was respectable. And I was like, cool. So he gets it. So I don't think it's fair to apply that energy to Eddie George because Eddie George didn't come in and say, "Oh, I'm here." He didn't come down from the mountaintop saying, "Oh, I'm here to save y'all poor black asses." He said, "I'm here because the AD asked me to be here, and I just want to see what I can do." And that's why it's, you know, 2 different lanes for me.
No, but absolutely, without question.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that, yeah, it's one thing to not judge somebody by what they say if you don't know who they are, but it's another thing to have perceptions. Perceptions are very normal. I've had perceptions about people. I'm not going to sound like it. I'm not going to make myself look like a hypocrite and say I've never had a perception about somebody based on what I've seen. I've had perceptions, and those perceptions really rang true for me when Deion, and I want to be careful what I'm about to say because I'm about to bring up his children, but when they were talking about the violence on Jackson State's campus, they were talking about the shootings that they saw that were happening on campus, and they didn't feel safe on Jackson.
That was his daughter who said that.
Yeah, his daughter. That's why I said I wanted to tread lightly about bringing up his kids, because I don't want to be disrespectful when I bring up that in this regard. And she caught a lot of flack for that, and rightfully so, because that's something that you got to have proof of that if you're going to bring that up, especially when you know you're going to get national media attention based off what you're saying with your father. Just then, he had just moved on to Colorado, and those stories were coming out. So when you bring up what's different between Tennessee, Eddie George leaving Tennessee State and Deion leaving Jackson State, is you don't hear nothing about that with Eddie George leaving Tennessee State. Now knock on wood that Eddie George don't eventually do that. I hope he doesn't. But I ain't heard Eddie George said, "Oh, there was a bunch of violence happening on campus. My kids didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe." And there's no proof of it. Now, I don't want to call the young lady a liar. Maybe she didn't feel safe. But why is this just now coming out when Deion is leaving?
Exactly.
Why didn't you voice any of those concerns while he was still there? Because now you're making it seem like you're trying to slander the university out the door when he's out the door, because he's going to get a lot of flack because he was talking about, as Chris mentioned, him wanting to save HBCUs. I'm not sure if those were his exact words, but him talking about he was doing all this for HBCUs. God led him here. And now that he's gone and he's catching all of this criticism, now you want to bring up the fact that you didn't feel safe. That's the biggest difference, was the rhetoric out the door. And that's why I don't think Eddie George is going to get that criticism unless he decides to do that too, which, again, I hope and I don't think that he will do. That's the biggest difference. It has nothing to do with the move for me. It has nothing to do with the move for me, because they were hinting at it all season. When he was on College Game Day, they asked him 10 times, was he going to move on if he were to get a job offer? They asked him in every interview that he did, the 60 Minutes interview. The biggest quote from that was, what would you do if a Power 5 school came calling? They asked him the question every single week. So it's not about the fact that he left.
And he said he would entertain it.
And we know good and well that meant that he would accept the job. We knew good and well that's what that meant. But it's not about the fact that you left. It's the rhetoric out the door. If you felt that way, that your family didn't feel safe or that you were mistreated, mention it then and there while you're still here. Don't try to sweep it under the rug until it's beneficial for you to bring it up.
It was kind of the rhetoric while in the door too, because as a lot of y'all know, like, he kind of sold a dream of like him starting this Black college renaissance of, like, him and his sons, and Travis Hunter obviously came along as #1 recruit in the country at Jackson State because of Deion Sanders, and he really preached about like how like more elite athletes like his sons and like Travis Hunter need to come to Black colleges to play football, play sports, give their time, give their effort. And then, like, lo and behold, like, after his first season, we get reports he's interviewing for like TCU job, he's interviewing for Colorado State's job, and then he obviously interviewed for the Colorado job and got that job. And so, like, his words never really always match his actions, despite all the good he did at Jackson State too. Like, I mean, for as much as he gets criticized for like being flamboyant and what he says and what he did, like, Jackson State reaped a heck of a benefit by that partnership between himself and the university that's still paying dividends today. But I will say, though, like, a lot of the criticism he got was because, like, how he initially came in and some of the promises he made about how his presence would kind of spur this renaissance for Black college sports that never really happened. It only lasted, at least from Jackson State's standpoint, 2 years before it was out the door. So yeah, like, that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. They were like, well, are you really in it for the culture, or are you really in it for yourself? And so that's kind of why it kind of like soured a lot of people from that standpoint.
Yeah, and when I was talking about this, because Kendrick put the news in the chat while I was preparing for the championship Sunday here in Delaware, and I was talking to a lot of press guys on press row, and they were like, so does this mean that Deshaun is going to leave DSU for the first opportunity he gets? And that's something that I think that people are really going to be worried about with him and Michael Vick, that this is just, again, that these guys are NFL guys, that HBCUs, because they need the publicity, because they need the whatever financial windfall comes with those guys, will take these guys on and then start back at square one when these guys leave. Like, I can't tell you what Deshaun Jackson thinks because I have not had a chance to have a conversation with him yet. Hopefully during the spring game next month, I'll be able to do so. But I mean, it's a question that we have to ask. And I mean, because you have Eddie George, you've had Deion Sanders. I mean, you got Chris Dishman at Texas Southern, and Kendrick Marshall is still demanding that we apologize to the Board of Regents. That's not going to happen. But but I mean, you have NFL guys that are taking HBCU football jobs, and then they leave. I mean, Chris Dishman isn't leaving yet, but nobody's
going to hire Chris Dishman to be their head coach at the PWI.
You don't know that.
I was going to say, if they go 9-2, think he won't get a call.
That.
think he won't get a call.
Again,
Shucks.
just want to preface when we say PWI, we mean FBS.
Yes.
We got to make that clear.
Yeah, so I mean, if Texas Southern somehow wins the Celebration Bowl anytime in the next 2 or 3 years, guarantee Chris Dishman's getting a call. But that being said, I just hope that whatever this, this celebrity hire trend or era inspires, that we explore it with nuance and that we explore it with a contingency plan, because it's going to end at some point. I mean, it's not. I don't think this is something that is going to be sustainable or even is sustainable, because these. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, we saw Ed Reed literally show his natural ass at Bethune-Cookman and didn't even have his contract signed. I mean, this dude showed up like Joe Clark, lock the doors, and didn't even give a chance to coach. So, I mean, it's not going to be, not everybody that gets a rub is going to be as, I guess, charismatic as Dion or as down to earth as Eddie George. There's going to be some Ed Reeds in between. Make no mistake about it. So I just don't think that this celebrity model is sustainable. So when that celebrity trend cycles out, where do our schools go from there? That's going to be the key.
And let me just say this. Shout out to Zach McKinnell with FCS Football Central. He said something that I wholeheartedly agree with. Every college coaching job at every level is a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. So I don't want it to make it seem like it's just HBCUs that are hurt by that. Even and as he put it, even Alabama, the big programs, USC, LSU, even those are stepping stone jobs to a higher level. The guys that are at the Power 5 level, they're trying to get to the pros. The guys at the FCS level, they're trying to get to the FBS level or the Power 5 level. Division 2 trying to move up to the Division 1 level. Division 3 trying to move up. So on and so forth. Every job in college pretty much is a stepping stone. Every college in general is a stepping stone job. Guys at the NFL level, the peak is NFL head coach. Those NFL position coaches, the coordinator coaches, other than the Chiefs defensive coordinator, because he's finding his job. But every job is a stepping stone. In general, if you have success in your role, other schools at higher levels than what you are currently at, they're going to be looking for you to take over at that next level. So I don't want to make it seem like the stepping stone narrative is mutually exclusive to HBCUs when it happens at every single level. There's PWIs at the FCS level or at the Division 2 level that struggle to keep their coaches because they have had multiple years of success. We're living proof of it. Valdosta State's head coach just got hired by Prairie View A&M. Yeah. So we've benefited from that too. Mm-hmm. The same way that we have been hurt by it, we have benefited from it. So I don't want to make it seem, because when we don't put logic into it, we make it look like we're whiners and we're complainers and we speak with just our emotion rather than just facts. So I just wanted to put that perspective out there that it's not just us. It happens at every level, especially in college. Everybody is trying to move up. Everybody is trying to show that they are good enough to coach at the level above where they're currently at. And the peak of it is Power 5s. Now, obviously, Eddie George is at a FBS, I believe, group of 5. I'm not sure if it's a group of 5 or if it's just in the FBS. I don't know. But
it's a group of 5 school, man.
Yes. Yeah. So he's in a group of 5 right now. I'm assuming if a Power 5 called him and threw some money in his direction, he would take that job. If he got an offer to be a position coach in the NFL or another head coaching interview in the NFL, I'm pretty sure he would take that if the situation deemed to be correct. Ain't too many people that's turning down NFL head coaching jobs. Only person that did it in the NBA to switch to basketball was UConn's coach. And now look how that worked out for him. He could have been the Lakers head coach. So everybody's trying to move up. Not everybody. Let me not say everybody. The majority of people are trying to move up. If you see a coach at the Division 2 level, Division 3 level, the FCS level, more than likely they want to be in the Power Fives, because that shows that they are doing what needs to be. They're dominating at a level to where they are saying that that level is below you. Come up. That's the ultimate compliment for a coach. So I don't want to. I'm talking in circles, but look, every job is a coaching stepping stone. Let's not make it mutually exclusive to us because we look like we're just speaking with our emotions.
Yeah, I mean, take our business for example. Like, you know, Kieran Shot, I'm pretty sure he saw what Stephen A. Smith signed for ESPN. It was like, you know, like that could be me one day. So
He was
his
like,
commentary
man,
gonna be more provocative moving forward.
And I'm doubling that. And please, 100 million. That's it.
Yeah, but Jerry, you are right though. Like people in our world, in the black collar sports world, fans or otherwise, can't take it as a slight that another school, particularly a PWI, wants one of our head coaches. That's a good sign. That means your coach is good. Number one. Number two, that means your team is good. Number three, it means they respect the level that the coach is coaching at. So if like an Eddie George or Kenneth Berry or Trey Oliver, they're in position to get a job at a PWI, they're like, okay, we're on the right track. Now, aside from that is like, okay, how are we going to replace him? How are we going to find the next Eddie George? How are we going to find the next Deion Sanders, which I stayed lucky enough they did, and he ended up winning the championship this year. So, like, I think, like, we got to stop believing that, you know, like, if a school wants our coach, that means they want the downfall of a black school. No, they don't want a downfall of a black school. They want the uplifting of their school. That's what they want.
And also,
has someone actually made that argument?
Yes.
I've never heard anyone make that argument.
Every time we write a story about X school is interested in X black college coach, a comment would always come about, well, they only trying to post our coach to make us bad.
Okay.
They don't care that way. It's not some type of grand conspiracy. Like, there's only so many coaches, good ones at least, out here in the world. And so if they see one possibly could be available, they're going to try to do what they can to get that coach.
And by the way, they do it with the players too. If they see a player dominating at at a FCS level, guarantee some Power Five's going to come calling. Andrew Jones.
It happened to
Terrell Allen. It happened with Terrell Allen. Now he's at
Grambling, yeah.
It happened with Jamari Taylor. Now he's at Virginia. It happened with Bayshore Tootin. We see what he did at Virginia Tech and what he did at the NFL Combine running
the fastest man in the world, apparently.
Daquan Felton. He was at Norfolk State. Now he went to Virginia Tech with Bayshore Tootin, and they showed what they can do, and now they're probably in line to get NFL contracts. Everybody is trying to show that this level is below them and that they can have the same success at the next level. It's worked out for some coaches. It hasn't worked out for some coaches. It's worked out for some players. It's gone bad for some players. A lot of guys played themselves into NFL contracts based on what they did at the next level. Look at Brian Cook, who's a 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. But also, we have guys that stayed at HBCUs or stayed at their levels at Division II and showed that even though I stayed at this level, I can still go up to the next level and dominate as well. Look at Joshua Williams, who was also on those Chiefs teams. Look at Kobe Durant. So it works in both ways. Some guys feel like they have to go up to that next level to prove that they can still do it. Some guys stay at the level they're at and still get picked up by the NFL. If they want to, they will find you. If you're good enough, they'll find you. That goes for coaches. It goes for players. Everybody is just trying to show that they are the best of the best. And if they find, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But that's how the business goes.
Yeah, so it's that time again. So with the end of the show, which means Chris Stephen got a special announcement for everybody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for watching this edition of HBCU Sports Live. We appreciate your time. As always, we invite you to subscribe, become a level 1 or level 2 member for the tidy sum of $4.99 a month. You guys can drop that Amazon Prime subscription anyway, because Bezos is full of it, and he's part of the reason journalism is dying. We do real journalism over here, so send your money to real journalism. We do that real stuff over here. Become a level 1, level 2 member. You can get all the Black college athletic news that's fit to print and broadcast, as we like to bring you here. If you want to donate, go the Zelle route, hit donate at hbcusports.com on the Zelle app, or you can donate via the website, hbcusports.com/donate, and subscribe to our newsletter. You never know when Ken Rashad will feel like giving out somebody a t-shirt. Shouts out to our guy, Michael Ford. He loves the HBCU Sports t-shirt. You might win a t-shirt. Feel free to subscribe to the newsletter. You never know. Also, follow us on all manners of social media, Instagram, Facebook. We're still on the Musty app for now, but even though the Musty app went down all day today, we're on Blue Sky as well. And again, Blue Sky is a much more peaceful environment. Trust me, you'll love it over there. So follow us on all manners of social media, donate, subscribe, so we can keep this operation going. We appreciate you as always.
Right, Kim, sorry, I got the last word.
Bye.